Will Israel become a civilizational state? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. The citizens of the State of Israel have finished casting their ballots. Now, after officials have counted 90% or more of them, Benjamin Netanyahu looks to get his prime ministership back. But this time will be different, because he now has coalition partners who are unabashed proponents of Israel as a civilization. Their detractors can detract all they want, but if these results hold, Israel will take a giant step to becoming a civilizational state. Before I tell you why I say that, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. And be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which reads, "Freedom isn't free." Now, true enough, this backdrop is an American flag, not an Israeli flag, but the basic principle still applies. And what has the snowflakes, and every country has its share, upset is that in this last election, most voters in Israel seem to have come to understand that and to act on that understanding. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come up with a new one. In fact, do you see that little icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click on that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, including new Israeli shekels. Now, reportage on elections in Israel comes from CBS, The Beeb, NPR, and Reuters. At this point, I had to explain a few things because I don't expect everyone in America to understand how elections run in Israel. The Knesset, as you probably do know, has 120 seats. Election officials allocate these seats in proportion to the total vote across all Israel. They call this system proportional representation. Under this scheme, every member of the Knesset is elected at large. In fact, no one runs for a seat in the Knesset. Instead, party leaders run for slots, which the Israelis call mandates. The party leaders winning the most slots receives a summons from the separately elected president of the State of Israel, and that person instructs the leader to form a government, combining his own slots with those of other leaders with whom he can get along, and form a coalition. Almost never does one party leader win the 61 slot majority outright. Benjamin Netanyahu's party seems to have won 32 slots. The Yesh Atid party, which led the anti-Netanyahu coalition last year, will come in second with 24 slots. The Religious Zionism party, with its unabashed platform for Jewish civilization, came in third with 14 slots. The vote counters at the Beeb seem to calculate that Netanyahu has the support of some Orthodox Jewish parties, which together will have 19 slots. And I think I know who they are. They're Shas and United Torah Judaism. Now, this will give you a Knesset majority of 65 slots, more than enough to form a government. Itamar Ben-Gvir, a follower of Meir Kahane before that person's assassination in New York City in 1990, leads the Religious Zionism bloc and its most prominent party, Otzma Yehudit, which translates as Jewish Power. Now there you have as direct appeal as any to a civilizational value, a religious tradition, which incidentally goes back for thousands of years, including more than 3,500 years in the region. In looking over recent pictures from Israel at the Getty Images site, I noticed something odd about Likud's campaign posters. They appear all over Israel, but especially in Jerusalem. Of course, they depict Netanyahu with the flag of Israel in the background, and off to the left-hand side, you see the slogan, and in English, it translates in part, "The Likud begins with Netanyahu." But above those words are the Hebrew letters Mem, Het, and Lamed. They spell the acronym Mahal, which stands for Mitnadve Hutz La'aretz, volunteers from outside the land. Why, these were the 4,000 officers that enlisted, not all of whom were Jewish, who fought alongside Israeli forces during the 1948 Israeli War for Independence. Maybe you remember the best Mahal movie ever made, Cast a Giant Shadow, from 1966. The Israeli Defense Forces remember them to this day, and the Mahal have another organization dedicated to preserving their memory. So why did Netanyahu pick those two letters? Did he want to evoke memories of the War for Independence with this reference to that foreign allied force? Or do those letters carry a different meaning? Now, if any of you listening to me now know anything about that, please leave a comment. But this much is clear. To win, Netanyahu has embraced the most explicit set of civilizational values the state of Israel can have. And as such, the Likud Religious Zionism Coalition strikes liberal commentators in and out of Israel with consternation, especially since he won with those values. Before we get into the details of those values, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Now, about Netanyahu and his civilizational values. He has long supported building Jewish settlements in Judea and Samaria, the lands that the rest of the world calls the West Bank. Indeed, he wanted to annex outright large tracts of Judea and Samaria, but recently the USA had a new president, Donald J. Trump, who did something no president, not even Harry Truman, was willing to do. Remember that he ordered his ambassador to Israel to move his office out of the original Tel Aviv embassy building and into the American consulate in southern Jerusalem, thus transforming the consulate into an embassy. Symbolic? Of course. But by doing that, Trump gained Netanyahu's trust after Barack Obama had destroyed it. Well, Trump was willing to broker peace with the Palestinians, if that were possible. That dissuaded Netanyahu from talking annexation. Now, Trump did broker the Abraham Accords between Israel on the one hand and Bahrain, Morocco, United Arab Emirates, maybe Sudan on the other. Itamar Ben-Gvir lives in Kiryat Arba, literally town of the four, outside Hebron in the south of Judea, Samaria. Kiryat Arba has seen more than its share of political murder of ordinary residents. Only recently, an Arab and member of Hamas shot and killed a Jewish resident of that town. And Hamas, whose name translates to Islamic Resistance Movement, is an arm of the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, the far-left member of Knesset who actually said that the residents of Kiryat Arba were not innocent civilians did not help matters. With a background like this, naturally, Itamar Ben-Gvir takes a hard line. Already, he and his partner Bezalel Smotrich will demand the Ministry of Public Security as a prize. Tellingly, two far-left parties lost every slot they had. Balad, a nationalist Arab party, and Meretz, a party with a platform friendly to alternative lifestyle participants. And Netanyahu specifically campaigned on national pride in an explicitly Jewish state. The coalition that opposed him included an Arab party, no, not Balad, which had only the one slot before. I think it was United Arab List, which moved up from 5 slots to 6. But that coalition proved fragile, and it broke apart with withdrawals that costed a majority. And the reaction to these results speaks volumes, mainly about the ones giving the reaction. Everyone seems to expect Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, and Smotrich to govern with an emphasis on nationalism and religious values. The only disagreement is whether that's good or bad. Complaints against the likely direction of a Netanyahu-led coalition sound remarkably like complaints in the United States against anyone who professes American civilizational values. They speak of erosion of Israeli democracy, well, just as American leftists speak of threats to American democracy. Likewise, the enthusiasm Netanyahu commands from his voters mirrors that of MAGA Republicans, and it draws either praise or criticism depending strictly on ideology. Yair Lapid, the outgoing prime minister, is one such complainer, but at least you never caught him delivering a speech in front of a blood-red backdrop with 2 armed IDF in the background. And furthermore, the man who, 20 years ago, wrote a telling essay on what exactly it means to be an Israeli can't be all bad. 11 years ago, I translated that from the French. He published it in a site that doesn't exist anymore. I have a link in the description to the CNAV article containing my translation, and it contains Wayback Machine links to the original. Speaking of whom, Yair Lapid refuses to concede until the last envelope is counted. Of course, he'll be lucky to have 50 slots to fill when you count his party and the coalition partners he still has. CBS and Reuters make much of Netanyahu alienating Jews still living in America. Now, of course, 72% of them vote Democratic anyway. Besides, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich might encourage Netanyahu to remember that only those who reside in Israel vote in Israel. 3 3/4 years ago, the Jerusalem Post published their own perspective on this matter, and it was not pretty. Now, they said some things about their co-religionists living in America that maybe a Gentile shouldn't repeat. They had to do with taking security for granted. Go read it. I've left a link in the description. Now, at time of writing, no news is broken to reverse the trend toward victory for the Likud Religious Zionism Alliance. In fact, it seems the more votes they count, the more rock solid their lead becomes. In evaluating the weeping and gnashing of teeth by American legacy media, readers should consider the source. Neither the legacy media, nor the Democratic Party, nor J Street has any taste for or understanding of civilizational values. I think the only Jewish people born in America who ever did appreciate Israel as a civilization have already made Aliyah. That last word in the Hebrew, it's the Hebrew word for the way up, and it's a Hebrew idiom for establishing residency in Israel. They are, therefore, Israelis. The crucible of constant threat of war and repeated acts of murder and sabotage have hardened the Israeli people in a way no leftist can understand. The election of a civilizational coalition in Israel became inevitable for the same reason that Judge Jephthah, who began as the leader of a gang of misfits because he was a natural son, became the leader of ancient Israel at a critical juncture, 300 years after the ancient Israelites arrived in their promised land. Look him up. He's in the book of Judges, or Shoftim in Hebrew, chapters 11 and 12. Time and events will tell whether Israel's new leaders will succeed in transforming Israel from just another attempted democracy, which is 2 wolves and a lamb voting on what's for dinner, into a true republic, which is a stable country with the rule of law and a civilization. Americans, Jew and Gentile alike will be watching, especially as we're counting the days to an election of our own. Link in the description of the article to Yair Lapid's essay, to that piece in the Jerusalem Post of nearly 4 years ago, to my Declaration of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to ourcivilized.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. And on the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel, and also links to any videos I can find out there about the state of Israel and the elections that they have just held. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.